It's 10 times the terror.
Hello and welcome to 10 Times the Terror. No,
Not okay. Okay, I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, do the little countdown, no, it's 10 times the terror.
It's 10 times the terror.
Spot us, Bengali. We're still waiting on our audition to be
Oh my gosh! Imagine we're gonna be a hit.
And our next show, Spawn us Bengali, ties into this.
To tune in every week.
Every Saturday night in makeup.
As we come out of our coffins to share.
And Justin can throw the rubber chickens at us.
He would have no part in it.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't even tell people that it exists.
No, I don't know them. I don't know them at all. All right, so we'll count down alone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, and welcome to 10 Times the Terror. I'm James.
And I'm Gwen.
And on today's episode, on this spooky Halloween special, we will be reviewing Halloween Ends. And Gwen, this is the first episode. It's just you and me.
I know
it's our Halloween episode.
It's crazy.
It's our Halloween
Where's the
episode.
old man?
Might as well not have our main host on, right?
I know, we ditched the old man. Well, he didn't really seem that enthusiastic about this.
He has not seen the movie, which is the main reason why he's not on. I actually, last time I saw him, I recapped the entire plot of this movie to him, and I would say he was riveted, but he wasn't. So that should give you an indication of what this would be like.
This is like basically this was like a little mini trilogy within the series, right? Like this was like
trilogy,
the third of this kind of trilogy
from director David Gordon Green. So yeah, we're gonna.
Did he do all three?
He did all three, yeah. And he, I think, co-wrote it with Danny McBride. But yeah, so this came out in theaters and on Peacock October 14th, and it's still available in both places to watch. So I think because it's a new release, we'll kind of do a quick little like non-spoiler general thoughts, and then we'll give a clear indication when we're going into spoilers. Because let's be real, there's a lot to get into with this one, and we're gonna have to just rip the spoiler band-aid off because
I know. Just forego the spoiler warnings at this point. We're not good about.
We're not good. Yeah, this is true. Well, I'll go ahead and start this, and I'll just give a little bit of context. Yeah, like I said, this has been like 3 trilogies from David Gordon Green. So the first one, the 2018 movie, I actually liked quite a bit. I thought it was a good sort of like soft reboot of this franchise. I liked that it was a direct sort of sequel to the original and kind of bypassed all the other movies. I liked what they did with Jamie Lee Curtis's character. I thought it was solid. It was solid. The next one, Halloween Kills, I did not like at all. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was like a big step down in quality. I did not like that. And so I think going into this new one, I just naturally had lowered expectations because of the last movie. And Gwen, I don't think my expectations could have been low enough because I thought this movie was absolutely horrendous. I hated this movie. I think it might be the worst Halloween movie ever. That includes the one with Busta Rhymes. That includes the one that Rob Zombie did. I think this movie is
wow. Out of like what, 25 movies?
Something like that. It's been a bunch. But yeah. So what did you think of Halloween Ends?
Well, okay. Well, so to recap, again, I really liked the first one too. I liked Jamie Lee Curtis coming back. I liked that whole wave in general of the horror movies bringing back the OGs and like the girl power, and like I was just really feeling all that in general when that was happening. I did not like you said in Halloween Kills, the kind of like it kind of felt like the way we complain about like the Star Wars franchise where like at the end it's like you make a decision then you instantly like backtrack on that decision. So it's like he's in the fire at the end, it's so good. And then in Halloween Kills, it's like, oh, we're actually just gonna backtrack on all of that and none of it happened and he's fine. So I didn't like really think that was good. And again, Halloween Kills felt really weird. It felt like I like don't remember most of the movie and I watched it like 3 days ago. Like the hospital whole sequence was kind of weird. I didn't really get a good feeling with the mob mentality. I just felt like it all fell really flat. And then like what were they trying to say at the end? Like we know he always comes back and he never dies, but after they like stab him a million times and hit him a million times, like are they basically saying he's like immortal? Like I was confused by all of that. Like all of that was kind of, I don't know. It just felt like we're just going to have no rules. and whatever, and it was very like predictable that everyone would then die. Halloween Ends. I want to say I did really like the opening sequence with the Corey kid and like how he accidentally kills this kid he's babysitting for. I thought that felt really different and really fresh. And I was like also confused like where that was like where they were gonna go with that. And um but every point after that I pretty much hated Corey and wished he was not in the movie. I'm not sure what they were trying to do, and like I just we didn't really get a lot of Michael Myers, which is kind of weird. I felt like he would became this secondary character, and there was so much development on this Corey character, but then like his descent to evil was very like underwhelming, and I know I see what they were trying to do, but once they became this like Batman and Robin duo kill spree, I was just like, this is becoming absurd. And obviously we're trying to just it was just a became this labyrinth of storytelling just to get Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis in the same place for the ending, which even then felt very underwhelming compared to the first film. I liked where it started, and I was just really kind of confused when it ended as to like what this movie was even saying. It just felt like really all over the place.
Yeah, well, so I do kind of agree. I thought the first scene was effective, especially with like kind of playing with our expectations because we're expecting, Michael to be in the house, and then it kind of misdirects you in that regard. I think the reason why myself and it sounds like a lot of people are having issue with this movie is that for all this, yeah, this is supposed to be like the conclusion, or at the very least, like the conclusion of this trilogy. Nothing about this movie feels like we're concluding a story. It feels like we're starting a whole new story with this Corey character who is like the primary focus of the movie, and the whole Michael versus Laurie, which was essentially the like selling point of this, is like an afterthought. It's like
Yeah.
kind of baffling how to the sideline that whole plot is to literally like the last like 10 minutes. And you're right, even when we get it, it's like so kind of like nothing.
I
But
know. But even with Corey's character, like, doesn't it start to feel very soap opera-y? So like, okay, he's being bullied, he has this like terrible thing that happened in his past, but then it's like he's dating the granddaughter, but then he's like in cahoots with Michael in the sewers, and it's like it just feels very soap opera-y at that point. Like just too many things tied all together that are just too weird.
wait, Gwen, you're saying you didn't find it realistic that he was getting bullied by the marching band? They literally
I know,
say they're the marching band, and the main kid has a letter jacket. What's that all about?
I know.
Okay. I'm not. We're going full spoilers. I know we've already kind of touched on that. We gotta just go
Yeah,
full spoilers.
just full spoilers.
I don't recommend seeing this movie. Just listen to our review. But again, it's in theaters. It's on Peacock. Okay, so
I mean, I would watch it for free on Peacock if you just feel like watching a Halloween movie. I would not pay money to see this movie.
yeah, and like if you've already seen the other ones, you just kind of want to see how they wrap it up. But man, did they take the weirdest way of doing that. So
The
yeah,
weirdest.
so yeah, I mean, you've already kind of mentioned it, but like, yeah, like the first. So here's the thing: I didn't find any of the characters even remotely believable. Like, let's start
No.
with Laurie Strode. In the first movie, like the 2018 one, we see that for 40 years she is in total, Sarah Connor survival mode, training for the eventual day when Michael, who's been locked up, is going to eventually escape, or so she
And
believes.
off the grid. She's been completely off the grid.
Completely off the grid in total survival mode training. And then where the last movie ends, yeah, like not only is Michael in total superhuman mode where he's killing everyone, including her own
Yeah.
daughter, and
Yeah.
then escapes. In this movie, she's like, you know what? I think it's my time now. I'm gonna work on my memoir. I'm gonna flirt with the one cop at the grocery store. Like, I think it's my time now. It's like,
I know.
what? So that already didn't make sense. And then the whole relationship between Corey and the granddaughter
I
Allison.
hated it. I hated
Well,
it.
like talk about no development. Like literally, Lori's like, here, come flirt with my granddaughter, and she's all like, grandma, huh? And then like the next scene, she like falls for him so hard because they're both like victims of trauma. And then like a second later, it's like I'm running away with him, and we're gonna like get out of this town. Like what? Like, and,
I
and then
know. And the good evil conflict they tried to like give his character because of that was just super lame.
especially because again, I get that they're trying to get into these more like complex like themes about like evil as it permeates throughout the town. But I think what's so odd to me is that okay, in the very first movie, like the original 1978 movie, when Michael kills his sister, it is a total random act of violence, and that's where you get the question of like, is he evil? Is what he did pure evil? Whereas what Corey did, like, okay, it's horrible, but it's an accident. Like, it is
Yeah.
clearly an accident. And then, okay, yes, he's like kind of villainized and ostracized by the town, but like he made a big mistake. And so I think when you try to like equate the two as like, oh, he has the Michael Myers evil in him, or
I
Michael is like
know. And the
transferring
way
evil.
they kept like dropping like, oh, his eyes. You look in his eyes and you can see the evil in his eyes. And like I get what they were trying to do because like doesn't I haven't seen all the films, but doesn't aren't there several where like he kind of like mesmerizes people kind of like the one psychiatrist in like one of the hospitals at one point like kind of becomes obsessed and memorized with him and he goes on like a killing spree. And isn't there one where he like transcends his like body into like a niece or something and she goes on a killing spree? Like, so I didn't mind that idea, but like it was super forced. It was super like I look in his eyes and I see a killer. It was just like what?
Yeah, well, I think that you're right, and that's been like I think an issue with this entire franchise. The whole like mythos of Michael like makes no sense and seems to like change movie by movie, and I think these last two movies really highlight that. Where I feel like these movies can't decide if he is just a person who has destructive means or if he is actually superhuman. Because for example, in the last movie, you're right, he survives this fire in the house and then goes full superhuman where he is killing everyone. He's taking hits, he's taking shots, and he's fine. And in this movie, he's an old fart. He's an old fart living in the sewers.
Well,
And after Corey gets jumped by the marching band, he's like 25, gets jumped by the marching band. Then he fights Michael and like can beat him up. It's like,
I know he
what's
like
happening
wrestles
here?
him to the ground and steals his mask, which also I thought felt made no sense. But
Okay.
also he goes from being in prison for what 40 years or whatever to then being like a supernatural like can't be killed. Like like how come he didn't just break out of prison then?
Exactly. And again, when we see the sort of flashes of his head, like we can see he's like an older man. He's like in his
Yeah.
60s, 70s. But again, the last movie he is like superhuman, and then this one he can't even beat up a freaking 25-year-old who steals his mask.
I know. I know. It's a little bit chaotic.
But
Um
also I wouldn't mind some of these really outlandish kind of swings that the movie does if the movie was a little more like fun or goofy. But the first hour is such a slog.
oh
There's no
yeah.
Michael Myers. You're like, is he even in this movie?
That's what I mean. Like to have it be the final one and have it have a title like Halloween Ends, like which we know is like they're just gonna like reanimate him like next year or whatever. But like it just seems so like epic, like what they were trying to do, and it just felt so underwhelming.
And the whole like movie is so to me is so like lacking in anything that's like suspense or dread or things you might
Yeah.
look for in a horror film. Like a perfect example is the scene when Lori like looks out the window and Corey's like on the front lawn, and then she goes downstairs and he's gone, and then it's like oop, he's right behind her. It's like there's all these stupid like fake
I
jump
know.
scares to like
Whereas
jolt the audience awake.
Right. Whereas I feel like going back to that beginning sequence, you have that fantastic jump scare where it's like the mom calling him or something, the kid like looking up all these flights of stairs, which you're already thinking like this is already like going to be a bad sign. And then the kid jumps out and scares her. I thought that was a fantastic jump scare. And
That
the
was good,
same
yeah.
with like that whole sequence. And then it's like, I felt like that whole sequence was like a totally different movie from then what transpired after that.
Well,
But something
again,
I
that story again, it almost feels like this would be the start of a new trilogy, not the ending of a current one.
right. Right. So something I read which I thought was interesting and I didn't know and I can definitely see they were trying to do is I guess the original creators of Halloween when they pitched it, they planned on it being like an anthology where each film would be kind of its own kind of just creepy Halloween story that Michael Myers
Yeah.
necessarily wouldn't be a part of. And so you can kind of see where they were maybe trying to do something of that nature
Well,
in
and
this.
that was Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. That's
Yes,
the only
because
one
he wasn't
that
in it
didn't
at
have
all,
it.
right?
And
Right.
that one, I think some of the defenders are comparing to that because that when it first came out, people didn't like it for that exact reason. But then kind of
Right.
over time, it's gotten more of a reverence.
More
because
recognition.
that was the idea of like, yeah, let's make this an anthology.
Yeah, so when I read that, it did make a little bit more sense what I see they were trying to do. I just feel like they just missed the mark. It just
Well, not only that, but like Corey freaking kills himself, so it's not like he's gonna take over this franchise. So like when he kills
know,
himself at the end, it's like, what actually is the point of this whole story then? Like, I would almost be okay if like they kill Michael Myers, but somehow Corey is like the next Michael Myers, if you will. Like it might have been sloppy, but like I would have been okay if that's like kind of how they concluded this movie. But the fact that
yeah,
he kills himself, you're like, so what was all this for? It's just a one-off kind of thing.
I know. And it became this like tragic love story at the same time. I wasn't feeling it.
No, that's
So
the thing,
let's talk about the meat grinder, James.
Oh yeah, is there any question? Well, talk about the passion of the Michael. They like crucify him
I
in the kitchen,
I
throw
know.
the fridge on him, and then the whole town is all conveniently together, like we're doing it this way tonight.
I know.
And it's like
The
freaking
sheriff's
Jesus
like gonna
Christ.
turn a blind eye.
Yeah, Michael Myers superstar. We're gonna throw him in the grinder. It's
Oh my gosh, it's so
like,
true.
all right, if you want to think, okay, there's no way he's surviving this, fine. That's one way of doing it. But I mean, again, it felt like it felt like they almost had an idea for a movie that didn't even have Michael Myers in it or Laurie Strode, but like contractually they had to include them. So that's why like the whole like last 10 minutes where they do have their showdown that's been promised the whole time feels like an afterthought.
It does, and it also just it doesn't feel like the showdown we wanted. You know what I mean?
No, it's like Laurie must be like, bro, you killed my daughter as well as like half this town.
I
Like,
know, and I
you're
really
going out.
part of me really thought she was gonna die taking out Michael, which I kind of would have liked to see in some weird full circle situation. But like the meat grinder thing, yeah, that whole sequence, I don't know, I was not feeling it. And like who's cleaning that meat grinder after that? Like that just that doesn't seem sanitary.
They're probably not getting paid enough, but you're right. But also again, so I've also heard like comparisons of this trilogy to the recent Star Wars trilogy, where like it doesn't feel like there's a clear focus for the kind of whole vision.
Like a
of the trilogy.
fan-made fiction
Well,
hoblob.
it doesn't feel like there's an overarching story that's fully fleshed out, which I think is a fair comparison. But what's weird about this is all three of these are the same director, the same writing team. So like,
Yeah, that is odd.
at least in Star Wars, okay, there were different directors kind of doing their own thing, but you'd think they'd have some idea of like, okay, here's the story we're trying to tell. But for me, it feels like they had the idea for the 2018 movie, and then that did well. And then they're like, all right, make two more movies, and they're like, okay, what do we do? Like it reeks of
Yeah.
like True Detective season 2 and 3 to me, where it's like
Oh
you had this one
gosh.
idea, and now it's like, how do we follow it up? Because I feel like another idea, which is like not really developed well, but it's like sort of interesting, is it seems like even in the last movie with the whole mob mentality and the evil dies tonight, which gets repeated 1,000 times, it feels like they're trying to insinuate this idea of like, here's how trauma can impact an entire town and how everyone is impacted by it, and now how in a way it becomes this curse on a town, right? Even if Michael's not there wreaking havoc, there's still all this trauma of people just
Yeah.
unable to kind of move past it, which again could have been an interesting idea, and maybe if there was like a new trilogy they can explore that, but it's such a haphazard
Yeah.
putting together of ideas.
That need to be like its own movie where you don't have a Michael, but Michael's presence is just within the town, right? Like that kind of monsters on Maple. But like so many movies have done that idea and done it well. And like even with Halloween Kills, like it just felt so flat in so many ways, that whole hospital sequence in general.
Oh, you mean when they're targeting the schleppy 5'5" guy?
Yeah,
They're like, yeah, that
who
must
then
be
like
Michael,
kills
who's
himself. Yeah,
obviously
it
7 feet
just
tall, but the
I
schleppy
know.
person must be him. But I think that's what's so like baffling to me too, is like in a way it's like these last two movies don't even feel like the same team that did the 2018 movie. Like they just feel sloppy. The writing, like you said, feels very soap opera-y. It just feels so kind of poorly strung together, and I don't know, because like again, I like the 2018 movie a lot, and I feel like
Me too.
that showdown really worked
It was
between.
fantastic. It was fantastic. No, the 2018 one was a great, like just kind of like refreshed reboot to the franchise.
Yes, and I think in a way that could have just been the end right there, but maybe again money speaks, so of course they're going to just keep
Right.
things out. But I don't know, this movie I thought was so bad. I
I
couldn't.
just
I thought it couldn't get worse than the last movie, and they proved me wrong.
no, I knew it was bad when there was like an hour left and I had not seen Michael and I was like, what, like I didn't even want to keep watching. I just wanted to turn it off, but I just like forced myself.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like so when we do finally see Michael, where again he's this like old man hanging out in the sewers for 4 years. Again, the last movie it sounded like everyone was on high Michael alert looking for him, but he's just hanging out in the sewer eating rats or
I
whatever.
know, and like the
But then
homeless man's completely aware of it, but like
yeah,
no one else knows.
but then there's this moment where he touches Corey, and it's as if like he's seeing all of his trauma flashed before him, and then it's like, all right, is he transferring his evil to him now? But then you're right, they sort of do this like tag team effort, and just like, but even then, like, all right, then he's like, teach me how to do it. Like, what? Kill people? Here, take the knife
I
and stab
know.
them. And then he
I
steals
know.
the mask and just goes out being Michael Myers. So it's like,
Yeah, that was the most AWOL part of it. Like when he like just wrestles him to the ground in the sewers and steals his mask. And I also feel like if I was a diehard Halloween fan, I wouldn't want to see some annoying bullied kid like beat up my my like, revered horror character and just steal his mask. It just seems like
yeah.
I would be pissed. Like what
After
the
getting
hell?
beat up by the freaking marching band.
I know. It's
I
like
still can't go
so
to the fact that they make a point of that, and the one kid's wearing a leather jacket. You're just like, what is happening here? Like,
I know, but also to like reiterate, he's not in high school anymore. He's an adult and he's getting bullied by high schoolers. Like
yes, he's like 25.
that's what I mean. It's like what's
and then
going
do you love
on?
how they break his glasses and then he just doesn't need glasses the rest of the movie?
I didn't even see that.
Because he's bad now. You know, when you're bad, you don't need glasses.
Oh my gosh, because he saw into Michael's soul and now he sees through his eyes.
There you go, exactly. He's seen for the first time ever, baby.
I know, but even like the Jamie Lee Curtis, like at the end when she's like, I want to report a suicide, and she's like, do you really think I'd kill myself? And I was like, this is so lame. Like this is like so lame. I was very disappointed because I was thinking, okay, if anything, there's going to be a big showdown with those two, and there's going to be like some big fireworks finale, and even that was just really underwhelming.
No, it's like we're just gonna crucify you to the freaking kitchen countertop, and then we'll sacrifice and we'll put you in
And
the
then we'll
in the
turn you into
grinder.
hamburgers.
Yeah, right. The passion of the Michael. Like,
Oh my gosh, every time you say that, like, it's so true. It's
no, like
terrible.
the fact that like the whole town just shows up, and the one chief with the hat's like, we do this tonight in this town. It's
Oh,
like,
it's so
where the f were you
stupid.
this whole movie? Like, meanwhile, Michael's been crapping himself to sleep in the sewer, and no one could find him. Really?
I know. Also, like, I was kind of annoyed between both Halloween Kills and this one that you bring back, like, we have, like, the little girl grown up, who's, like, working at the bar. We have, like, all these, like, original characters coming back where they kind of have their own little, like, trauma group where they meet every year at Halloween or whatever. But we don't really get a really detailed taste of that. I feel like that's a really throwaway bit that kind of comes in and goes so fast. We've talked about it's not every opportunity where we see all these kind of like reboots where you're bringing back the original characters, and to have like little kids and teenagers that were in the originals come back as these adults. I feel like you could have done so much more with that, like, and like really had like a real in-depth interesting side story with them.
But I think that also just kind of exposes the big kind of issue with this. Like, it feels like this movie is like at odds with itself. Like, it feels like
Right.
some of them want this to be a story about the town and sort of like healing from this kind of horrors, and then the other side of it is like, well, we got to have a Michael versus Laurie showdown conclusion movie, and like it just the two don't ever gel together, and it feels like these ideas similar to Michael just get thrown in the grinder and spat out back into us.
I mean, I think it's safe to say the biggest downfall of this whole film was Corey. He was it was Corey and everybody else. He was the star of this movie.
He was literally the star of the movie. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he just was dead, and then
A
it was
character,
like, oh,
a character
actually,
we're introduced to in this movie and kills himself in this movie.
and
Yeah.
and has probably the most screen time of anybody in the movie, and it's somebody we don't even know at all, except for the like we're introduced in the opening sequence, and I'm like confused why they gave this character so much screen time and so much storyline when he was gonna just be dead, and he like it didn't make
Well,
any
no,
sense to me.
what they need to do is they need to introduce this character 2 movies ago and like plant that seed where
Yeah,
he's ostracized for whatever
yeah,
reason, and then have that kind of grow so that by
like
the
a
time we
slow
get to this movie,
descent.
yes, and then when he does become the copycat killer, it feels earned and not just something that's just
But
thrown in last
but
second.
even where he's maybe not the killer until after Michael is somehow killed in whatever scenario, and he comes across the mask and you see him pick it up, and then oh, like for the next movie or something, like something's coming with this guy. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly,
to really
exactly.
like to really get us into like accepting him as possibly the new Michael. Yeah, that could have been a great segue to like a new franchise, if you will, because then it is like Halloween ends, but now, you know, a new beginning is a new, sinister beginning is starting.
Right, well, because again, it's sort of a an eye rolling line, but when she's sort of writing her memoirs, just by like, evil takes a new shape, which like Michael is often referred to as the shape. So that would have been like a fitting, idea of like, okay, so you kill Michael Myers, but now that evil is now personified in this new character who's going to start doing his own kind of havoc.
Right, right. Yeah, it just felt it felt like a very forced afterthought. I don't need,
I know.
we're only like, well, okay, so we're like 27 minutes in. I was saying, I don't even think there's anything more I could say about this. Like, I just, that's
Yeah.
it.
Well, no, it's like it's one of the things where like I feel like for both of us, like this is not necessarily our most beloved movie franchise, not even our most beloved horror movie franchise. So at the end of the day, even though it's fun to kind of like hate on this movie, like it's not like as soul crushing as it would be for other franchises.
True.
But at the same time, like again, we know they'll probably at some point make more of these, but it does just feel like you've done everything you can do. It's like, and again, even if they want to say, all right, we're gonna actually give you the Michael and Laurie showdown you were promised, it's like, well, we already got that. We got that in several movies. It's like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and I feel
it's
like
true.
another great example was like the Scream movie that came out earlier this year. That was a much better example of like passing on the baton
Yeah,
where Sydney Prescott wasn't the star of the movie, but still was there and kind of gave her character a little closure, but also like kind of
exactly.
set us, the audience, up to accept more movies with new characters.
Exactly. And you gave the OGs the screen time that we wanted to see, you know?
100%. Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah. I mean, one more interesting thing I want to point out that I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I noticed like only recently, which obviously is dumb to even say because the whole premise of Michael is like this slow walk where he's just coming for you and he never goes away and he just pops out when you're least expecting it. But I've never found the Halloween movies to feel that scary in general, like of any of the ones I've seen when it was like H2O and like all these reboots and all this different stuff. And yet when you told me to see It Follows, I had nightmares for probably like 3 months straight, like with how scared I was. But it's kind of the same premise. And I'm like, why? And I only really connected the dots watching these newer films. And I was like, why is it that like I was so scared by that? But like this kind of has the same overall idea when it comes to like the killer stalking you, but I just never really found them that scary.
Well, I mean, I think for myself and probably many, the original Halloween, the John Carpenter one, is the best one. And I think when you go back and revisit that one, I mean, that one really takes its time with like showing Michael Myers. But even when you get the glimpse of him, I think it really just gets to that idea of like the idea of being followed, kind of like It Follows, like
Yeah.
where it's not so
Yeah.
much that he's going out killing people. It's more like you feel like somebody is following you. You don't know who it is, and there is more of a like mystery to who Michael is because at that point the characters don't know who he is, but it's just the idea of like
Right.
somebody is following you, and I think that's just like an archetypal fear.
No, I think you're right. All
Like I
right.
remember, I remember clearly the like scene in the original where he's hiding behind like the hedges, and like she can kind of see him in the distance, but then all of a sudden he's gone. Like
Yeah,
moments like that are really kind of unnerving. Whereas I feel like
that's
these newer
true.
ones kind of downplay those stuff parts.
Well, they go too much for like these jump scares, and that's all it is. There's no real like building sense of dread or horror. It's just filled with jump scares.
No, or like shitty sound effects with like the microwave is like super loud. It's like this is not working. This is not working.
It's not working. Okay, well, on that note, happy Halloween to everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Do not watch Halloween Kills. It's a Halloween movie.
If you really want Halloween to end, just watch that one. Yeah.
But that's what's like even annoying. You know it's not ending. You know there's gonna be another
I know.
Halloween movie.
It's almost like why even bother?
Exactly.
Well, they ended my enthusiasm for these movies. I'll say that.
100%. I was rejuvenated with the 2018 film, and now I am deflated again.
Your enthusiasm is thrown through the grinder and just chopped to bits.
Chopped to bits.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to 10 Times the Terror.
Thank you for listening and happy Halloween.
Thank you for listening to
It's 10 Times the Terror.
the podcast.
One of my favorite films ever. Let's do that for again.
Thank you for listening to 10 Times the Terror. This podcast would not be possible without listeners like you. You can find out more about our podcast by visiting our website, 10timestheterror.com. That's 10xtheterror.com.